Become a millionaire with $500 a month. In this episode, we are going to address the question, what is the minimum amount that I can put into or invest in an IUL, Indexed Universal Life? You're going to see it's not what you begin with that counts, it's what you end up with. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been helping people with max-funded IUL since Universal Life has been around in 1980. I started as a financial strategist in 1974. But when Indexed Universal Life came out in 1997, I was all over that, and my average rate of return went from 8.2% up to over 10% since that time. And so I'm a big proponent that people, as they prepare for long-term goals, such as retirement, or maybe in their business, or with their real estate management, college funding for their kids, that one of the best places to accumulate their money tax-free, safely, where it's liquid, it's safe, it earns predictable rates of return between 7 to 10% is what I've averaged for 45 years. And I don't have to pay tax when I take it out, and I don't have to pay tax when I transfer it to my heirs. When I'm 6 feet under, there is not an income tax due to whoever I leave it behind to. There's very few vehicles that give tax advantages like that. In fact, there is no other vehicle in the Internal Revenue Code that allows you to accumulate, access, and transfer your money totally tax-free. But when it transfers, it blossoms in value. So my average returns, as I alluded, have been between 8.2% up to 10.07%, even though some years I've earned 25%, okay? Other years, 16%. Other years, when the market totally crashed, I didn't lose. I didn't make anything maybe, but I didn't lose. But see, I've averaged a rate of return between the 8 to 10% range. So when the question is asked, what's the minimum amount I can put in? Well, you have to cover the cost of insurance that was dictated under the tax citations under TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA to accommodate the maximum amount you wanted to put in. So the real question is, well, what's the most that you want to put in? And generally, this is called the guideline single premium. This is how much you want to be allowed to put into the policy over the life of the policy and no faster than the first 11 years. And so let's say it's $500,000. Now, you don't have to put in $500,000. That's the most you could put in over the first 11 years. In fact, you could probably put that much in the first 5 years, but then you're done. There's no limit to what it can grow to. It can grow to millions and millions of dollars tax-free. There's only a limit to how much you can put in. So if you're trying to set up a contract, a policy, a savings vehicle using Indexed Universal Life with the least amount of premium, then you want to think about, well, what's the least amount that I could probably average on a monthly basis? I remember when my wife and I raised our 6 children. When they were born, shortly after, we would take out a universal life insurance policy on them and start socking away $25 a month. Now, that was 40 years ago, right? And so $25 a month, putting into their policies and then adding more money later and so forth, grew to hundreds of thousands of dollars just at $25 a month. I would say right now, if you can set aside $500 a month in today's dollars, $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. Now, you can put in more than that. You can put in less than that. If you put in more, you can coast. So if you throw in 10 or 20,000 and then you have to stop and not put anything in, you can do that if the minimum amount was 500 because you just divide that into how much you've already put into the policy. It allows for flexibility. That's why it's called universal life, because it's universally applicable to minimum funding, maximum funding. But the question is, how much do you want to accumulate to generate tax-free income at the end of the day? And so I back into the minimum amount when I talk to most of my clients. Here's how. So based upon the rates of return that I've quoted, that I have achieved, and not just me, heavens, Thousands of our clients that we've helped with this have achieved incredible results. Let's use the rule of 72. See, the rule of 72 says that you take the interest rate that you're earning on any investment and divide that interest rate into the number 72. So 8% into 72 means your money will double every 9 years. If you're earning 10%, your money will double every 7.2 years. If you're earning 7.2%, which is the average that people earned in the worst decade since the Great Depression, 2000 to 2010, just falling asleep and waking up 10 years later, people doubled their money. The average return was 7.23%. Let's use 7.5. If you started socking away $500 a month and you earned an average of 7.5%, you would have $1,015,000 in 35 years. So I guess the quick answer is, well, the minimum might be $500 a month if your goal is to have $1 million and you've got 35 years to get there. Or if you had a lump sum, how much could I set aside so that 30 years from now I have $1 million if I have $125,000 right now? Well, $125,000 right now, if you're earning 7.2%, it will double every 10 years. So 125,000 grows to 250,000 in 10 years. 250 doubles to 500 in the next 10, and 500 doubles to $1 million in the next 10. And so it's quite simple. But what I alluded to is when I met with people, I would say, how much money do you need in today's dollars? And they would say, this would be like 30 years ago. Well, I need at least $3,000 a month on top of Social Security to buy gas and groceries. I go, okay, $3,000 a month. So that would be some type of an investment vehicle that would generate $36,000 a year of cash flow at $3,000 a month. But we have to take into consideration inflation. What do you think inflation will average? And they'd say, let's say 5%. Well, that means the cost of living will double every 15 years. That means that $3,000 a month will only buy what $1,500 a month bought 15 years earlier. So you're going to need $6,000 a month in 15 years to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that $3,000 a month bought 15 years earlier. And if you are looking 30 years down the road, it doubles again. So $6,000 goes to $12,000. You're going to need $12,000 a month to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that $3,000 a month buys today. So in order to have $12,000 a month, that's $144,000 a year, we're going to have to, if we assume a 7% rate of return or a 10% rate of return, we back into it and we go, we need $1.5 million, we need $2 million, we need $3 million nest egg to hit your goal. And so it's really a function of not what's the minimum, how much do you need to set aside, and then with flexibility, be allowed to put in nothing or a very low amount, but it's really what's the most that I can put in to achieve my goals. So yeah, you could become a millionaire by socking away $500 a month for 30 years at 7.5% interest. If you earn 10%, you'll do it quicker, but maybe $1 million is not going to be enough. And so you may need to accumulate $2 million or $4 million. Can I tell you, people who have used max funded indexed universal life, IUL, where it was structured correctly and funded properly under the TEFRA, and TAMRA guidelines, this has turned into a cash cow for them. I call it the laser fund. It's the title of my most recent book. It has actually 2 books in one, a left brain side and a right brain side that has stories and examples. You will see in here that there are people who started out with $500,000, maybe 30 years ago. And so using the same math, 500,000 doubling every 7.2 years, because they have averaged 10% like I have. So 500,000 doubles to $1 million in 7.5 years, let's say. In 15 years, it's doubled from $1 million to $2 million. In 22.5 years, it's doubled again to $4 million. And at the end of 30 years, their original 500,000 in the laser fund is worth $8 million. And that $8 million at 10% is generating $800,000 a year of tax-free cash flow for as long as they live. Do you know any other vehicle that does that? If you want to know how and why, that's why I wrote this book. It's my 11th book. I'll pay for the book. You pay $5.95 shipping and handling, and I'll fire one out to you. Just go to laserfund.com and you learn how to be able to have this work for you and not outlive your money, and to be able to have a vehicle that will accumulate your money tax-free. And it doesn't matter what you put into it, it will knock the socks off of any other investment vehicle that's only tax deferred, especially in the markets where it's volatile, because this is stable.